Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another segment of movie news where we talk about everything that's going around in the movie sphere as well as TV sphere and just giving you important updates on what's going on. And so this is made to start conversation, so I would love for you guys to go down in the comments and write questions or opinions on things that we talk about here today or things that you want me to discuss later in other videos. And so today we're going to be talking about other topics, like we have a new Spider-Man update, we have a new Mickey versus Winnie the Pooh movie happening. This is where peak cinema begins. Yep. We got news on A Quiet Place 3 and so much more. So before we get into it, go ahead and subscribe and like this video. I want to have at least 50 subscribers by the end of the month. That would be my goal. And then go ahead and like the video and share it with someone else that you know. I appreciate you guys for watching this. So without further ado, let's get into some movie news. All right, so we're gonna start with this short section of this. So this is all the information that I don't have too much to mention, but I did want to mention it for you guys that love all of this movie news stuff. And so if you find a topic that's super interesting and you want me to talk more about it, I'll make it short for you if you list it in the comments below. And then also I'll try to give as much information and background on a topic as I can. This is kind of just surface level of information and as much as like we really needed. However, if you want any more information, I can give it to you, hopefully. So, without further ado, let's get into the first quick topic of the segment. All right, to kind of start off this new movie segment, I actually wanted to talk about a new casting update for a new Netflix movie called In Your Dreams. Now, this is an animated film, but we did get confirmation that Christian Milioti, who was also in The Penguin recently as Sophia Falcone, actually joined the cast, and Simu Liu's in this as well as Chris Robinson. And so this is set to follow a character named Stevie and her brother Elliot as they use and go through magic time to find the Sandman so that he can grant their wildest dreams, and this just really to get their parents back together. And so that's really what's happening in this film. There's not much more information about that other than casting updates. However, it is set to release sometime this year. That's what it said on IMDb. So there's not a for sure a release date just yet, but it is coming out later this year if you're interested in that. Speaking of adding cast members to shows, we actually got an update on season 2 of The Terminal List. This is a show that follows Chris Pratt, and he plays the character who kind of goes into battle and is being hunted and all that fun stuff. This is on Amazon Prime, I believe. And actually, we got Gabriel Luna added onto the cast. He's the guy that played Ghost Rider in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show. So most of you also know him. He's also in The Last of Us. And so he's been added to the cast. Do you think he'll be a good fit for this cast? I think so, but there's not really much more information to go off of other than that. Moving on to John Wick news. This one's actually a super big topic, and even though it is a quick segment, this is all the information we really have about the project right now, so I can't spend too much time on it, but John Wick 5 has been confirmed to be happening by an exec named Jennifer Brown. Now, she's worked on the past couple of John Wick films, and so this is what she had to say in an interview this past week. This world continues to grow and expand in incredible ways. Up next, of course, we have Ballerina, which is our first spin-off movie in the franchise starring Ana de Armas that comes out later this year, and we can't wait for that film to release around the world. Of course, we've announced that we're working on a 5th John Wick film, and then she actually added to the conversation right after this. She ended up saying, "We're developing a 5th John Wick film. He may be dead. We're all bated breath waiting to find out." And so, as someone who likes the John Wick films, and I didn't really think he was going to be dead in the next one, or I thought they were going to do more with it, I am excited to see this because this always has some interesting action with it, and it's always something new and inviting. I loved the overhead shot that they did in the 4th film, and then even the stair fight was hilarious. And so, honestly, I really did dig the last one and the past couple ones, and I'm excited to see another one. I just hope Ballerina does well because the Continental was not for me. I did not enjoy it. And speaking of sequels, we're going to be talking about Cloverfield. Now, all this information comes from Batak Anavari, who's actually set to direct the next film, and we just haven't heard anything about it after the last one was released straight to Netflix. It's probably one of the worst films I've ever seen. It was not good. However, the first one I really did enjoy, and that was the first found footage film I've ever seen, and I really enjoyed it. And so it was done by Matt Reeves, and I was super excited to see what else they could do in this franchise or other different people's point of views, and they just didn't do that. They went off on some weird route, and I didn't really enjoy the last ones. but we did get confirmation that a sequel is still in the works and that it'll probably be a direct sequel to the first one. Now, I'm not sure if this means it's going to be a found footage film, if it's going to be following somewhat of the same characters, or if it's just going to be right after those events. There's not much more information about that, but they are developing a sequel that's kind of tied to that first film, and I'm interested. I still don't like the universe as a whole. I think it's kind of a waste now since what they've done with it, but I did like what they did in the first one, and so if they do something like that again, I'm all for it. All right, and so the next piece of information we're going to be talking about today is actually a show starring Elizabeth Olsen called Seven Sisters, and this will be on FX. And I'm honestly not a huge fan of all of this, but the show is set to follow a family, and one of the members of the family is talking to someone that's not there. So I'm assuming this is a horror show, and the most interesting part for me is actually seeing Elizabeth Olsen starring in a horror show in the first place. I think that'll be cool to see her kind of give some more breadth to this role. She's played a murderer in other roles, but this one's kind of different. And then the other part of information that I'm actually kind of excited about is actually the director of the pilot, and his name is Sean Durkin. And so he actually has done The Iron Claw, which was one of my favorite films this past 2 years ago. And honestly, if he can do horror just as well as he did with The Iron Claw, the whole movie of The Iron Claw is such a tragedy. If you can bring that to this family, I'm kind of excited to see what this kind of plays out to be. Now, I don't think it'll be anything big or anything special, but I'm curious to see what you guys have to think about this. On the quick topic of horror, the requel of I Know What You Did Last Summer has finished filming, and so they are done filming anything for this film. And so are you excited? Because this one, they're bringing back the old cast and then using some of these new ideas that they have to remake this first one and also play into how they're older now. So I'm excited to see what they do with it, but I'm not a huge fan of this whole story. I know a lot of people love this one. It's just not one of my favorite slashers, but are you excited for the original cast returning and seeing this new one? All right, the next film we're going to be talking about today is actually one from M. Night Shyamalan. Now, we still don't have a full-on premise or a title for this movie, but we already do know that this movie is starring Jake Gyllenhaal, and we also got an additional casting information that Phoebe Dynevor is actually going to be in this film as well. I don't know her from much. I am assuming from this picture she looks like she's from Bridgerton, but I've never seen the show, so I'm sorry if I got that wrong. Are you excited for M. Night's next movie? This is a horror, thriller, romantic movie. Can they do well? As news goes on, I'm completely losing more and more interest for Greta Gerwig's Narnia project. I think it should have been a faithful adaptation this whole time, but instead they're going a new route. However, this news actually is proving to be interesting. We got Daniel Craig is reportedly in the talks for a role in the Narnia films. Now you may be asking, which character? Well, it looks like from this note right here that Uncle Andrew Curtley is going to be in this film. And for those of you who aren't big Narnia people, I'm not as well, so I had to look him up. But Andrew Curtley is actually one of the first people to step in the Narnia world. And so that'll be interesting to see someone's perception of this whole world and being one of the first people to actually be in it. And it kind of gives me more faith that they're actually diving into this whole idea and actually using stuff from the actual books instead of readapting it and repurposing everything. So this is a positive for the Narnia film in my opinion, and I like Daniel Craig as an actor. So what are your thoughts on this information right here? As someone that's not a huge sports person, I actually got confirmation that we're actually getting a Tiger Woods biopic, and Barack Obama is actually producing this film. And then the director for King Richards, yes, this is the movie where Will Smith actually went to the Oscars and actually smacked Chris Rock in the face. This is the movie that he was there for. This movie is getting made by that director, and honestly, we'll see. I'm not sure. I don't know how good this film will be, but it is happening. So for you sports fans, are you excited for this one? All right, so as someone that is really excited for this Christopher Nolan's next film, The Odyssey, we did get our first look images for Tom Holland and his role. Yes, this is him on a boat right now, and that's Christopher Nolan right behind him, and that's just super exciting to see, and that he's actually just gonna be in the film itself, in this boat scene. And a lot of people said that this would look like a live-action Link movie or Zelda movie, and I think that's kind of funny, but no, this is The Odyssey, and honestly, it is really highly speculated that Tom Holland will be playing Odysseus' son, and with that, we also got information that Ryan Hurst is actually joining the cast. Now, I don't really know where he's from. I'm assuming it's from one of those Viking shows, but this is really interesting that the cast is actually growing and as the movie's being done, and that these first look images look really promising as we keep getting more and more information about this film. So I'm still excited for it. Is this raising your expectations for the film though? I want to know in the comments below. For fans of Black Mirror, we actually did get a new trailer as well as a release date for the show. It's going to be released on April 10th this year. And so are you excited? There's a couple of images on the screen right here for you to see. However, I've never seen anything in Black Mirror, and I know that's a shocker. It's one of those critically acclaimed shows of all time, it feels like, and that everyone's always talking about how crazy it is and how we're living in a world that's getting closer and closer to these ideals. But I've just never gotten around to it. I hope to one day. I just have way more stuff that I'd rather watch than the show right now. So, what are your thoughts on this new season and what the first looks are? Just this past week, though, we did get confirmation that Percy Jackson Season 3 is actually happening. It was greenlit before Season 2 even released, which is a good sign for this second season, and I'm actually excited to see how this show adapts the third book, as well as the second book, because the second movie for the original time we actually got to see the story was not done well. So I'm excited to see what they do with the second season, but also now the third season. Are you excited that it got renewed for a third season? And are you hopeful that we could actually get a fourth season as well, and then hopefully finish out the rest of the trilogy? Just this past week, we got a new look at the Toxic Avenger reboot. Now, honestly, this movie is very, very much rated R, and this movie's been stuck in just being held on a shelf for about 2 years now because of how graphic this movie is. And I've never seen the original one, so I really can't speak for this film franchise as a whole, but I've heard really good things about it from test screenings from 2 years ago when they tried to play it at festivals. However, studios never picked it up until this past couple months. And so we're getting a release date for this film, and it's actually happening on August 29th of this year. And a studio finally picked it up, so we get to see it in even after all this time, which will be interesting for most of the Toxic Avengers fans. Have you seen the original ones? Are you excited to see this one? Let me know, because this is played by Peter Dinklage, and so that'll be interesting already in itself. If you like the original Prison Break show, I got some good news for you, also some bad news for you. You're not getting a sequel to this show, but you are getting a reboot. However, this reboot is set in the same universe with different characters and a different storyline. So, it's not truly a reboot, it's more of a sequel series, but it's not a part of the original story that they set out in the first show. And so this one, you actually may see some of the returning characters from the original show. However, the main cast for this right now is actually set to be Emily Browning, Lucas Gage, and Drake Roger. So are you excited to see this show and just to see what this universe has to bring us after all of these years? As we talked about last week, a new Starship Troopers film is in the works at Sony, and a lot of us, I really haven't seen it again, so I'm sorry to disappoint. But it is being a faithful adaptation to the original books, and so that is reassuring. And the other good news for this, and these people that have seen this movie and love these movies, we actually got a director for this, and it's actually Neil Blomkamp. Now, if that name sounds familiar or doesn't sound familiar, he actually did the movie District 9, Chappie, or even Gran Turismo from a couple of years back now, and all of those are really solid films. So, are you excited to see this new faithful adaptation for the movie itself? For all of you that love the Mortal Kombat games as well as movies, we actually got our first look of Johnny Cage in this new film, and this is the second one and the newest reboot of the whole franchise for the films. And so, are you excited for this? Yeah. I'm not someone that knows all the Mortal Kombat lore, but I did watch the first one, and I somewhat enjoyed it. It was entertaining at the most. So I'm gonna be happy to see what they do with this one. And in other news, Toy Story 5 has finished their first edit of the film, and so that's super exciting to hear, especially this far out. They do have it releasing in June next year, so they got a ways away. But it'll be super exciting to see what they do with this film, and that they can actually have time to edit it and rework things that don't work currently. And they have had test screenings with the Pixar staff, and so we'll see what comes out of this. But I always liked Toy Story. I don't think the other film was the strongest one, the newest one, the fourth one, but I'm excited to see what they do with this one. So that was all the really short, quick movie news that I wanted to mention. A lot of it, again, if you want to have a short for it, I can make one for you detailing more information. But that was it for all like the short content we got to be talking about today. Now we're going to take a break and go to movie trailers before we get into all the big information. And the movie trailers this week, this section is basically included so that I can put movies on your radar that you may have not have heard of, that you may want to end up checking out, because I know some of these I didn't even know about, and they're released in the next 2 months, and I'm like, oh, that'll be a fun watch. So there's a lot of these that I'm actually kind of excited for, and I want you guys to be just kind of aware of things. If none of these sound good to you, that's fine, but I just want to have this section for you so that you guys know what you want to watch, or just add something to that I'll watch that later list. So here you go. The first trailer we're going to be talking about today is a new film called The Uninvited. Now, based off that name, you think it's a horror film. Well, it's not. This movie stars Elizabeth Reeser, Pedro Pascal, and Walter Goggins, in a story where an old lady with dementia comes up to someone's front door and says, "I live here." They don't. And then what ends up happening is that she ends up crashing the party, and like it all becomes about life meaning and everything. So that's something, if you guys want to watch that. It does come out on May 9th of this year. This trailer wasn't for me, but it may be for some of you, and so that's why I included it. Moving on to the next trailer with actually no introduction really needed. This is the live action Lilo and Stitch film, and honestly, I was kind of won over with this first look trailer. There's a lot of alien designs that I was super excited to see, and I was just kind of waiting to see what they would cook up with this film. Now, it does look like they're repeating a lot of the same beats and plot points from the first one or the original one, and honestly, it is a live action remake. That's why we're watching this, but I just feel like at this point, they're not really needed if all we're just doing is copying and pasting and just rewriting things in cursive rather than just actual text. That's what this basically is. And so I'm not really all for it yet with the story, but the whole animation and the look of the film, it won me over. So I'm kind of excited for this film. And this does, again, release on May 23rd of this year. So there you go. Mark your calendars for that. Freakier Friday is getting a sequel, and we got the first look trailer this week. And this is a sequel to Freaky Friday from the 2003 movie. And we did get confirmation that Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan are back. However, they're not just swapping bodies with each other, but also in the movie itself that Lindsay Lohan's biological daughter will be swapping bodies, and her stepdaughter will be swapping bodies as well. So there's 4 people in this whole conundrum now, and they have to figure out life, and so that'll be super interesting. Are you excited for this one? Because I believe this one was supposed to be a Disney Plus original, and then they shifted it to the whole theater thing. So we'll see. I'm not expecting anything huge out of this, but that is something that's coming out this year. And we do have a release date for August 8th this year. So are you excited for this one? Moving on to peak cinema, we did get our first trailer for Mickey versus Winnie the Pooh. This is a slasher film, and honestly, it's one of those low budget ones. It's not taking place in the Pooniverse as we all know it today, but it is happening. So are you excited to see Mickey versus Winnie the Pooh fight? Because this is going to be peak cinema. No, it's not. But we don't have a release date yet, but there is a trailer. So if you're really interested in like, hey, what even is this? Go look it up and tell them that your boy Caleb sent you, because that's happening. The Amateur is coming out this year on April 11th, and we actually got our second trailer already for this film. And this one follows a CIA decoder as his wife actually gets blown up in a terrorist attack or shot in a terrorist attack. And so he'll have to go and take some vengeance like Batman. And so there you go. The Amateur. Are you excited to see this one? The Luckiest Man in America also got a trailer this week, and I was actually super interested in this trailer because I've never heard of this film before until today. And so I watched it, and honestly, it looked interesting. This story itself follows a man that has an ice cream truck, and he drives around and he discovers a secret way to win as a contestant on the game show called Press Your Luck. And so I did a lot of research on this, and apparently it's played in some festivals, and honestly, unfortunately, the critic score is a little mixed. Some are saying, yeah, it's a solid film. Some are saying it's a little it lets down with all the cast and performances. It doesn't do anything interesting to cross that line. But the trailer looked solid to me, so that's something I'll probably end up checking out, and that comes out on April 4th this year, which is very, very soon. So, are you gonna go check this movie out? The next movie we gotta talk about is a movie called Sneaks, and Anthony Mackie plays in the lead role, and he plays a sneaker, and what actually ends up happening is that he gets split up from his other half, and so he ends up having to travel the city to go find her, and the animation looks bad. This is what we wanted though. This is original content. We've been asking for original stories this whole time. Let's hear them out, I guess. I don't know. Are you excited for this trailer? Since we are halfway through this movie news segment, I want to take a minute and ask you again to please like and subscribe. This is always my favorite thing to do, is talk about movie news and movie stuff. So if you guys have anything interesting to ask me, like, Caleb, what's your favorite movie? I'll try to like compile a list and make it into a video. And so list it in the comments below and we'll just see what you guys want to interact with me with, and I'll just tell you everything I'm thinking. So here we go. Let's talk about more movie news, and this is going to be the last big segments of the whole week. So here you go. All right, so the very first big part of movie news we got today is actually A Quiet Place Part 3. And so this is taking place after the second one of John Krasinski's films. They did the part 1, part 2, and then we got Day 1, that's its own thing. Then we got a follow-up to part 3. I thought this was going to be happening a while ago, it just never did, and so now we actually have a reason on why that is happening. And so we actually did get an interview with one of the producers at South by Southwest, which is like a film convention that happens in Texas. And so there's a lot of fun things that we actually get to hear about as all these directors and producers come out to support all these other films. And so this is what they actually have to say about part 3 of the film. They said, so Day 1 is not A Quiet Place Part 3. Just to be clear, A Quiet Place 3, we're starting to put it together right now. You know, when we made the first one, John Krasinski didn't have a lot on his plate. He just come off The Office and he wanted to be a director. Now he's in demand and it's hard to get him. He's making a movie right now, Jack Ryan, which we also talked about on the channel in like the last couple of news segments. And then so as soon as he finishes that, hopefully he will turn his attention to A Quiet Place Part 3. We all want to finish the trilogy, and I'm hopeful there's even more Quiet Place movies beyond that. So, as I said, they're waiting for John Krasinski's schedule to kind of clear up, which is kind of alarming, but also not really. There's not much more of his projects that he has going on other than Jack Ryan right now, which hopefully means that Quiet Place Part 3 is coming out in the next couple of years, and they are starting to like develop it. I just feel like they're trying to develop it without him, possibly. That may be what that's going on right now. I'm not too sure. But I'm glad to see that we will be getting a conclusion to that whole trilogy. And they also talked about doing more films outside of that whole trilogy as well. And so we'll do more sequels to like Quiet Place Day 1 and that type of thing. We'll see. I don't know. I feel like this whole franchise is kind of declining now. I really did like the first two. Day 1 I really enjoyed, but not a lot of people did, and so we'll see how this kind of falls. Are they going to do more? Because they also did a video game as well, and so we'll see. Are you excited for A Quiet Place Part 3 being worked on right now? Moving on to the Accountant franchise, we actually got our first movie a couple years back. I just watched it for the first time. It stars Ben Affleck as a guy named Christian Wolf, and he's an accountant that has to take down all of these people that are doing shady things in their books. And so I thought it was done well enough. I had fun with it. Jon Bernthal was in it, which we all know that I really do like him as an actor. And then the second one actually is being worked on right now. They actually premiered it at South by Southwest, which we just, again, talked about. And so a lot of the scores for the critics were very positive on the film, saying that it was funnier than the others and that the chemistry between Jon Bernthal and Ben Affleck was better than ever. However, they did say that there was kind of some choppy parts and that it wasn't fully like fleshed out or anything truly different from the first one. But I am excited for it. And then with the announcement that they actually did just do the second one that's coming out this year, we did get an announcement that part 3 or the third movie is actually happening in the franchise. So are you excited for The Accountant number 3? Way before we even see the second one, which seems like a good sign. It has an 87% on Rotten Tomatoes right now. The second one does. And so we'll see where this third one takes us, I guess. All right, so we have a lot of Marvel news to talk about. The first one we're going to be talking about today is Hawkeye, the show. Yes, the show. We're going back all the way to talk about the show. The first season of the show, I really did enjoy. I thought that was a fun, harmless show, except for the weird things with Kingpin and Echo. Wasn't a huge fan of that, but for the most part, it's one of the better seasons of the Disney Plus shows, I think, in my opinion. Now, I do wish we got second seasons of Moon Knight, Hawkeye, and even a third season of Loki. However, we did get confirmation that they were not designed to have sequel seasons, which was kind of disappointing, where we're only creating TV shows just to have a 6-hour, basically, movie, and then it's done, which it doesn't seem right. I feel like we're just pushing way too hard, but I always wanted second seasons because we get to spend more time with these characters. Like Moon Knight, I feel like would have been better overall if we got to see him more often than what we do, because we've seen him 3 years ago now and haven't seen him since. So it's kind of just been disappointing not being able to connect with these characters again. And so it looks like by the scooper called Daniel RPK that we may potentially be getting a second season to Hawkeye. Now they're working very hard behind the scenes to pitch things and try to work this whole universe back together. And so this is what they have to say. They said it's going to be more of a die-hard style adventure, and that this one is going to be stuck at the Christmas time again, where Clint Barton and Kate Bishop are trapped in one building. So this would be like a Die Hard-esque scene where they're all climbing in the rafters trying to escape one building. So this would be like one night type of thing, and it's going to be taking place at the Christmas time again. Now they go on to say that the main villain of the show is going to be Hawkeye's brother, and his name is Barney Barton, and he goes by the name of Trickshot. And so I know all these people from the comics. It's super cool that they would do this. However, this is just a person that is just kind of taking all this information. So take it all with a grain of salt. This isn't confirmed yet. I think it would be cool if they did this. However, again, not confirmed, unfortunately. But I want them to do second seasons of shows. If not, I kind of feel like it's pointless at this point. So we'll see. I like the idea of them all being trapped in one building trying to fight each other, especially if like Hawkeye's brother is the one that's supposed to be like holding everyone hostage in the building. That would be something interesting and something different, it feels like. So we'll see. What are your thoughts on a potential Hawkeye season 2? Moving on to Spider-Man 4 news. Now, we did get confirmation that there are some people that may be returning, may not be returning, or new additions to the cast, since we basically just sent them all off and none of them remember Peter Parker. And so we got a new interesting update from the Shocker himself. This is the guy that played the Shocker. And so he said in an interview really recently, he said, "We discussed it. It wasn't right or appropriate for the first one to actually wear the costume. But who knows, down the line we can get a better closer to the original suit," which left many fans speculating on whether or not he would return. So he said something about wearing the original suit and how they had to adapt it and change it for Spider-Man Homecoming. However, he might want to be able to wear it again, which would be super interesting. So are you a fan of seeing the Shocker return? Or do you kind of wish that we just kind of be doing away with this character, or that he's kind of pointless? I think it'd be cool to bring him back in like the original like opening fight scene or something like that, him teaming up with other Shocker bank robbing villains, but we'll see. I didn't hate him in the first movie. I just didn't think he did anything notable. So yeah, Shocker may return. There you go. You guys thought that was all the Spider-Man news that I had for you guys, but actually Sadie Sink has actually been casted for Spider-Man 4. Now this is something super interesting because a lot of people are speculating on who she's gonna play. She's reportedly playing a huge role in this film, and that she'll be Peter Parker's love interest. Now a lot of people are speculating that this may be Jean Grey, which would just be weird. I don't think that's it. Some people are saying that she'll be playing Firestar, which is someone that appeared in Spider-Man and his Amazing Friends. And then some people are speculating that she'll be playing a different version of Mary Jane, which could make sense, but I feel like is the lamest option. Some people are even speculating that she'll be playing Uncle Ben. Yep, that's Twitter, man. Film Twitter is the best. And then the other person that people are speculating is that she's actually going to be playing Tobey Maguire's daughter from the multiverse, and that she'll be teaming up with Peter Parker. Because if you guys remember that this one movie is reportedly supposed to be a multiverse movie again, so that would be something super interesting to see, just them two hanging out with Tobey Maguire's daughter and then our Peter Parker. I'm not all for all of the multiverse stuff. I'd rather be street level villain type of thing where we're just doing street level story, but that idea actually sounds interesting to me. So what do you guys think about this whole theory? Or do you guys have any other separate theories on who she's going to be playing? So, since Spider-Man was mentioned in Daredevil Born Again, let's just move on to Daredevil at this point. And so we got confirmation that a bunch of the major characters from season 1 are actually returning. Here's the list. We actually got Heather Glenn coming back, Muse coming back, Phoebe Urich, and then again Karen Foggy. So they're all coming back for the second season. And we'll see where this takes us. That's all I really had for that, but I wanted you guys to be aware that people are returning from the first season, and it's just kind of slowly rolling in on who else will be joining the cast because they're filming different stuff right now. Speaking of the MCU returns, we actually got something super interesting to talk about, and this is actually about Phil Coulson himself. Now, Clark Gregg, who played Phil Coulson in all of the movies and the TV shows, has actually put this image on his social media, and this was on his Instagram stories, so it's no longer there, but he took this image and put it on there and said, "Let's go," which a lot of people like myself are speculating that maybe we're getting a Phil Coulson return, because this is a shot from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and so that may be meaning that we're getting more people returning from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. This would be super, super fun. I'm one of those people that watched the original show of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and that finished it all the way through. A lot of people I know really didn't finish it, but I liked it. I just haven't rewatched it since it all came out. So I'm down to see him return in this whole new, like, Secret Wars or Doomsday. I don't think he will, but we'll see. I'm excited to see what this actually means, or if it even means anything at all. So we'll see. What are you guys' thoughts and speculations about maybe Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. returning to the big screen? And finally, closing out the Marvel news, we did get confirmation that Vision Quest has started filming, and this will release on Disney Plus in 2026. And so this will follow the White Vision character after he left WandaVision. So this will be interesting to see where he's been this whole time. There's a lot of people saying that we're also in the show going to see Ultron's daughter, as well as Ultron's children itself. And so many people are actually also speculating that Sadie Sink may be tied to this show and that we'll see her in the show before we see her in Spider-Man. So we'll see. I don't know necessarily where this all lands, but I'm excited to see where this all kind of goes, because we really need to have a lot set up for this Avengers Doomsday to work well. And so if this show is supposed to carry some of that, I don't know how that'll work, because a lot of people don't watch these Disney Plus shows. And so I'm excited to see it, but I know a lot of people will be like so confused that what's even happening in the new Avengers movie. Yeah. All right, now for the next topic. One thing that just happened as I was filming this video, we actually got reported that Saw 11, one of my most anticipated movies of the year, has been canceled because of just fights behind the scenes. The production people didn't know what the story was going to be next, and so they said that it was kind of just put on pause since January 2024. And one of the people producing the films tried to do something different with it, and they didn't like the outcome of what they were leading down, or the route they were leading down. So right now it looks like it's basically going to be a reboot or a canceled universe. And so they said that there's a potential for a reboot for everything, but as of now, Saw franchise is now dead. So unfortunately, that is something that just popped up, but I thought you guys should know. So yeah, are you disappointed? Are you excited that there could be a potential reboot? Because this is a franchise that had a really good last film, but I'm just kind of disappointed now that it's canceled. So what are your thoughts? The second to last big thing that I really want to talk about is actually Creed 4. Now, this isn't anything because of the film itself. However, it is something that surrounds the whole film, and that is because Michael B. Jordan stated that he wants Jonathan Majors to work on the next film with him, which is something really huge because, as we all know, Jonathan Majors has a huge scandal on his back right now. And so seeing that Michael B. Jordan's actually reaching out to him and wanting to give him a job again is something super interesting. And he also said that he wants him to return in other projects that he's doing as well. And so I don't really have anything other big thoughts about that. I just think it's really crazy how even after everything that they've done, that Michael B. Jordan is the one reaching out to him and giving him another role. So let me know your thoughts, because that is, again, kind of crazy that he might actually return for Creed 4 and then work on other projects with Michael B. Jordan. So we'll see. So one of the final topics I wanted to talk about today is actually Ted Lasso. Now, that is one of my favorite shows that I've ever seen, and I really enjoyed it. However, going through seasons 1 through 3 again, you can tell that the quality is slowly declining. And so one thing that I was always really happy about was the ending for the show and how it actually ended, and I was excited with it. And then they said that season 4 may be in the works. However, Jason Sudeikis may not come back. And then we got confirmation this past week that Jason Sudeikis will be coming back, and it'll be Ted Lasso season 4. And also some other cast members are returning that you may recognize, like Hannah Waddingham, Brett Goldstein, Jeremy Swift, and Juno Temple. And the only person that's really not set to return is actually Phil Dunster, who's actually plays Jamie on the show. And so that's something kind of disappointing. But the first episode of the show will take place in Kansas, and then he'll slowly make his way back to the UK, where he'll end up coaching a girls' soccer team or a good girls' football team instead of the boys. And so it'll be interesting to see how they pull all these characters back together. And honestly, they could give me 15 more seasons of this, and I just love this show. However, the quality, again, that's something to kind of like work around. Is it going to be as good as the first season, or are they just kind of doing it because it was popular again? We'll see. I'm hoping that this one will be good, but I'm always excited for Ted Lasso, and so I'm just happy that they're bringing this character back. What are your thoughts on Ted Lasso season 4? And let me know what else you'd like to talk about with this whole show. Alright, so that was all the information about movie news I actually have for you guys today. Remember to make a comment in the comments below about what was your favorite part of this whole movie news topic. What's one project that excites you? One that might be making you more nervous? Just anything that you can. Go ahead and like the video and subscribe as well, because I want to just talk with you guys about movie news itself. Anything to start the discussion, because I'm here for the discussion. I love talking about this stuff, and so I just want to be here with you guys talking about this. So with that being said, I want you guys to stay safe and take care out there.